Mortality. So I was in Target a couple of months ago, and I was going through Target as I usually do. My 6-month-old on one hip, my 2-year-old on the other hip, my 5-year-old weighing me down, and my 7-year-old bumping into me every few feet. And I heard a voice. You know, you are never going to heal if you don't put those boys down. Oh, I'm not hurt. I have cerebral palsy. Oh, I thought all these children were yours. They are. No, I thought that you gave birth to them. I did. Oh, are people like you usually fertile? Yes, cerebral palsy does not affect fertility. But aren't you worried about leaving these poor boys without a mother? Cerebral palsy also doesn't impact life expectancy. And she walked away. These are not uncommon interactions for me. At 18 months, I began to walk. My feet and knees faced each other. I was up on my toes. My back was hunched. I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and from that moment on, I was shipped to Disabled Island. That's where I've always lived as long as I can remember. That's where all the diagnosed abnormal bodies are. And to people looking in to Disabled Island, they assume some things. One, that I must be dying more quickly than they are. Well, I must be infertile because why would nature allow a sick, flawed body like mine to reproduce? And I must have issues moving through culture, moving through schools, moving through work, having meaningful relationships. Well, unless some benevolent person decides to accommodate and make room for me. And then I turned 13. And after my 6th operation, my back was straight. My feet faced forward. I no longer walked on my toes. I took up road biking and downhill skiing and hiking, and I got hurt sometimes. But even when I wasn't hurt, people assumed my limp was the result of a temporary injury. Maybe I sprained an ankle, or I pulled a muscle and I was healing. And suddenly, I would find myself shipped momentarily at times to able-bodied island. That's where all the normal bodies are, and people assume you are alive, well-connected, and living life to its fullest, unless you disclose otherwise. I'm here to tell you today, neither of these divided islands actually exist. We are all on the ability bridge, and it's continuous. There's no gaps, there's no barriers, and we're always moving. Everyone from the gold medal Olympic athlete in the peak of health to the elderly body taking its last breath is somewhere on their own journey on the ability bridge. Young children slowly become more and more able, for the most part. Elder adults become less and less able, well, for the most part. There might be times that we can really dedicate to our body's fitness and our nutrition, and we might feel ourselves moving more quickly in one direction. The onset of illness, an accident, can move us more quickly in the other direction. Sometimes we'll recover and start moving back. Sometimes we won't. But no matter what, as long as we're on the ability bridge, we're moving, all of us together. So if we're all on this continuous bridge, Why do we have this idea of able-bodied versus disabled? Why do we make divided islands? Well, I've had people tell me it's out of fear of becoming disabled, of becoming like me. I don't think anyone's scared of what they're going to become. I think what they're scared of is what they already are, and that's mortal. We know mortality. We know it from a really young age. I see it in my 2-year-old's eyes when he's at the top of the big slide at the park. He knows he could fall. And he also knows he can ride his body's vulnerability right to the bottom, and it will be exhilarating. As we get older, mortality isn't just physical to us anymore. We know that as we become less able and less aesthetic, we'll also be less valued and less included. As we become less able and less aesthetic, we will become less valued and less included, and that's scary. So scary that it's easier to pile all of that inevitable mortality onto disabled bodies and ship us off to Disabled Island where we can be gazed at from a comfortable distance. Well, until you join us. Because if you live long enough, you will. I discovered this journey I was already on the Ability Bridge because people remind me of my mortality all the time. I always have to assure people I'm not dying any more quickly than they are. I have become what I consider hyper-embodied. And when I say that term, people get nervous. They say, what? Fixated on the body? They start thinking of someone with anorexia that is so thinking about their calories and thinking about their size and their shape that they're missing out on life. I'm not missing out on anything. I'm enlightened because I'm enjoying this journey on the bridge that so many people don't even realize they're on. I know from moment to moment my ability can change. It inevitably will change, and that means my embodied experience will be different. How people interact with me will be different. The change is always coming. We can all become hyper-embodied. We can all embrace these mortal bodies we're in that are forever moving on the ability bridge, and when we do that, culture changes. How does it change? We stop seeing ramps and automatic doors and large bathroom stalls as something we've created to accommodate abnormal bodies. They're for all bodies because they flex and move around us on our journey on the Ability Bridge. Whether it happens to be a moment where we have packages in our arms, or we're pushing a stroller, or we need a little more space in that stall because of the size of our bodies, or because we need other people in there with us, either so they can help us or we can help them. It's not only space we need to think of differently from a hyper-embodied stance, we have to also think about time differently. Right now, when I say flex time, often people will think of that as, well, that's what we give those bodies that can't show up to work when they're supposed to. Let's not think about it that way. Because on the Ability Bridge, there's going to be moments where our bodies or our relationships with other bodies means we're going to have to participate in the economy at different times than at other days. How wonderful to have time in our culture flex around that. Allow our culture to flow with us through both space and time. I hope after today, you'll become hyper-embodied. you'll notice and enjoy and embrace this journey along the ability bridge. We're always moving. I'll leave this stage. I'll go home. I'll probably have a 2-year-old on one hip, a 6-month-old on the other, my other 2 boys weighing me down. Someday I won't be able to carry them anymore. They'll be too big. Someday they'll move so fast that I probably won't be able to keep up. Eventually, I definitely won't be able to keep up. Neither will my husband. But I know that if we transform this culture, if we become hyper-embodied, my body, my husband's body, my children's bodies, and all of our bodies can know that we will be valued and included as long as we're moving on our journey on the ability bridge. Thank you.